This is the Stop Playing Podcast with Sham and Shaka. I'm Sham.
I'm Shaka. What's going on, Sham?
Nothing much. Chilling. Had a little 2-week break. What's going on with you?
Also nothing much. I mean, definitely sheltered in place, although I may stray out for a couple of, listen, I've been going out for errands, so that's fine. May do something a little social coming up, so we'll see. But we're in that little space. We're in the middle of August, and it's looking like the pandemic's going to last a little bit longer, or a lot longer than a lot of people think. So we need to start making our plans accordingly.
What kind of plans?
Well, listen, if the pandemic is not going to slow down, then we need to adjust to life in the fall and then in the winter under these circumstances. I saw a story the other day, and this is one of our stories, but grocery stores are starting to hike up on food and stuff like that. You know, so, I mean, just the basics. And then after that, how we going to socialize? Think about the holiday season. I mean, how's that going to work?
I mean, I spent one Christmas just sleeping on my couch, so I don't.
I mean, and is that a lot of people in our country? That's not going to be a viable solution for them.
Yeah,
that'll be cool for me.
Yeah, I'll be good. Done it before. Cool, I could do it again. I don't have a longing need to be around people. I mean, you know this about me, so.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the parents, we talked about this. The parents are trying to get their kids back to school, although more and more places are leaning more towards distant learning. But even then, the parents have to adjust to that. So it's an interesting time.
So, yeah, I was reading that in Maryland, I guess they finally decided what they're going to do about the kids in the fall.
Yes.
So they're all pretty much going to be virtual learning, distance learning.
Yeah.
They set up I saw the PowerPoint that they set up, and it seemed like a really good plan. But the good thing is that they are offering devices for families with multiple children. Because I know one complaint when everything went awry and people had to stay at home is that they had 3 or 4 children and they all had to be in school at the same time.
Yeah.
And they had to share one device. So it was difficult for them. So they are doing a device program. So kids can each have one.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, how you going to have your teenage sibling, older child on the same Zoom room with your kindergartner? That'll drive everybody crazy.
Well, not even in the same room, like all the rooms going on at one time, but only got one computer.
And one computer, exactly. Yeah, you're right. The Zoom room would imply different devices, same place. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to cram their heads together to get on the same screen.
No, you know what I'm saying? Like, so this class is happening the same time as this class, but only one kid could be in class because you only got one device. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But they could say, hey, go out and buy more. I mean, they don't have to provide them, but they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, you know, everybody has money during the pandemic, so of course everybody could go buy more stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. Some of them going to wish they had saved that $600 though.
Yeah, that is coming down as we speak, pretty much, or at least it's manifested itself as we speak. That's been a failure. We didn't even really we put together obviously the show before knowing what would happen, and then it's happened. That's a good point. The stimulus as of right now is not a go. The second stimulus has failed. So that's going to cause a lot of pain. Now, granted, $600, but $600 is better than $0.
$600 was a come up for a lot of these people.
Yes.
They were getting, so the max for unemployment, at least in Maryland, is $430 a week. They were getting an additional $600 per week. Some people were making $1,030 a week and weren't making that before.
Yeah, which is, and you're saying it and it's factual, but you're not saying it in a negative way. That's just the reality. but that logic was used as part of the reason why this wasn't passed. People were just sitting at home and not trying to work. What?
Well, some of them were, because I know for a fact that people were told that they could stay at home if they wanted to, because they knew that with reduced hours and stuff that they weren't going to make what they had made before. So people were given the option to either come back or stay home. So
but I believe that's a minority, right?
I'll put it this way. Just depending on where they work.
I'll put it this way. I think it's a minority of people not trying to find work, even if that was their circumstance. Because even if that was their circumstance, there were some people that were like, all right, well, even if this is a better situation than the job I had, I'm still trying to look for a better job because I know this is not going to last forever.
Yeah.
And there are people looking for work. And I think there was a narrative being spun about people just chilling, enjoying life, not working. That's not the case. And we're going to see that.
I don't think that's a true narrative. I think some people were doing that. Correct. Yes. Right. Like the guy who took the money and bought a Lamborghini and some shit. Ooh, I don't know.
Which I need to meet him and see how did he swing that? Yeah, apparently he passed a check or something. It was a whole lot of layers to that. I know the story you're talking about. Like he used the checks. I didn't think you could pass checks with stuff like that.
Man, look. But I am looking into a new career. I'm transitioning late in life. Mm-hmm. So I was just telling you before the show, I started taking a coding class.
That's awesome.
I think because I'm pretty much a left-brained individual, right-brain tendencies. Like I've always been kind of sciencey and techie and all that kind of stuff.
Can you break down the size of the brain for me? I don't know them. I've heard them. I don't know which one is which.
Obviously, there's much more that goes into it, but the basics are like left brain people are more like analytical. They do science, math, that kind of stuff. Whereas right brain people are more artistic. They are more creative. So,
okay.
I mean, that's just the basic, but a lot more goes into that.
Okay. So
like logical reasoning stems from those who are left brain. They flow on logic. And if it doesn't make sense, they kind of question it. So.
All right. Excellent. I'll probably forget that. And you'll need to remind me, but I'm glad we went over it. Or you can just today.
Google it, because Google is for everyone.
Or I can listen to the podcast, which I do all the time. And we can do that too. And this is episode number 75. So what anniversary is that for like marriages and stuff? You know,
75?
Everything. Yeah, 50 is golden, right? 50 is golden.
So then this will be platinum?
I don't know. I think platinum is higher than 75. I don't think it's immediately after 50. I think platinum might be 100 or something like that. So we'll look that up, and maybe that'll be the title of the episode, guys. Stay tuned. You'll stay tuned, as in you'll see the title first and then understand why it's the title, if it's the title. That makes sense?
To who?
To you and the listeners, Sham.
Hey,
you know, 75 episodes in and you still don't get me sometimes. It hurts. It hurts so much.
Bro, it's the diamond anniversary.
75 is really diamond?
I mean, that's what the Google says.
Okay. I mean, can we go past one listener? Okay. All right. I will leave it alone. So, for now, the diamond episode until further review. So, you ready to get into some stories?
Yes, please.
Because now the first one is really serious. There's still a lot of information coming out about this, but I haven't seen a visual like this in quite some time. So there was an explosion in Beirut over this last week. So today we're doing Friday Night Lights. Today's August the 7th, Friday the 7th. And that explosion happened, I want to say Tuesday the 4th. It may have been Wednesday the 5th. I need to get my facts straight there. But at any rate, this explosion was so big, they showed it on TV. It looked like a mushroom. There was a mushroom cloud that came up, and this explosion was felt hundreds of miles away. One report was saying it was felt on Cyprus, where one of the Greek islands. It blew the windows out there. At minimum, 200 people have been killed. Hundreds of people have been injured. The source of the explosion. So anytime you explosion, there's usually a cause attributed to it right away. Like, okay, there was a missile, there was a grenade, there was something like that. All it said was there was an explosion. So you knew, okay, we got to get to the bottom of this. The story was that there was ammonium nitrate left in a warehouse in Beirut.
Been there for a minute.
And it's been there for a minute. Now, Beirut already is a city that has been littered with violence since back in the 80s and even before then, with all the wars in the Middle East and stuff like that. But ammonium nitrate sitting in a warehouse, I mean, how's that possible? So there's still a lot more questions than answers on this, but this has been a big thing all week.
I mean, they confiscated it and they ain't know where to put it.
Right.
You couldn't dump it into the ocean.
Well, you know what? In hindsight, anything would have been better than what ended up happening with it.
Absolutely.
And that's just the long and short of it. The video that's gone out a lot is a young lady was having her wedding in Beirut, and she happened to just catch it, or someone on video happened to catch it. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just, you're sitting in the city, you're trying to live your life, and because somebody allowed some just horribly explosive material to sit around, now you're dead and everyone's dead. It wasn't even an attack. It's just sitting around. Apparently there was a fire in a warehouse, like next to the warehouse where the ammonium nitrate was. So whatever caused the fire, that's its own investigation. But then that triggered
at first it was like somebody doing fireworks nearby. They tried to put it on. They have all
kinds of stories.
Yeah, nah. Look, government of Beirut, you mishandled some highly explosive materials, and you're just gonna have to live with it because that's on you.
Yeah, we've seen this movie before, right? I mean, they try to cover it up just like the United States try to cover up 3 Mile Island, and Russia try to cover up Chernobyl. It's one of those things like, what kind of lies can we cook up at the beginning just to cover our tracks while we figure out a better lie? So that's what happened here.
Right. And unfortunately, the people of that city had to pay. And
they paid hard.
Like more than 5,000 people were injured.
Yeah. I say hundreds, thousands. Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
100 people are missing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's what's going to ride. So the story, unfortunately, is just breaking. So it'll get worse and worse.
And that did happen on the 4th.
The 4th. Yep. Tuesday.
Yep.
All right. Now, on to ostensibly some better news. It's local, and we've been talking about this in terms of how the United States in general has handled the coronavirus. And then we've brought up our local response. I've talked about Mayor Bowser. You've talked a lot about Governor Hogan. We both have. He is an excellent governor, and he has allowed Maryland to join. I call it a consortium because I like to use fancy words, but I don't know what they really called it, but Maryland is part of an 8-state agreement to have a response and testing to the coronavirus. So basically they're pooling their resources. So
they're calling it an interstate coronavirus testing compact.
I mean, I like it.
Which is a partnership between Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Utah, and Virginia. And they're going to work in conjunction with the Rockefeller Foundation to provide 500,000 of tests per state. So it's going to be around 3 million tests. And basically, they're trying to ramp up the use of a rapid antigen testing. Because, you know, folks are out here getting tests and don't know whether they have COVID for like 7 to 10 days. And at that point, kind of what's the point?
What's the point? Right.
So, so this is, you know, in an effort to detect the outbreaks more quickly, and expand the testing in like schools and workplaces and nursing homes. So, places where there's going to be lots of people meeting.
Absolutely. This is the natural conclusion to what we were talking about with the governors when things were really starting to get out of control. And the governors started looking to the federal government, realizing that they just weren't going to get the support they needed. And it's been a long process, and they're still trying to work with the federal government. There's still a call between whether it be the White House or Congress or what have you with the governors every week. But I think the governors from almost the get-go realize if we're going to solve quote unquote this crisis, we're going to have to do it on our terms and our level. And I think this has been brewing for a while. And then finally it's like, you know what? It's kind of like college football. The NCAA as an entity is just a mess. And it's like, we're going to have to form our own conference here and deal with things in our region and take care of our constituents. And I think they said between all 8 states is something like 50 million citizens. So if you extrapolate that with the United States, that's basically like 1/6 to 1/7 of the population. So these governors were like, look, regardless of what the rest of the country is doing, some states want to wear masks, some states don't, some states want to open up, some states don't. Let's get together. Let's figure out a solution. Let's get these tests going. Let's pool our resources.
And of course, you can never make people happy.
Of course not.
No matter what you do. So folks are out here questioning and having concerns about the test accuracy. Look, I mean, you're going to have those concerns about the tests they have now. You're going to have those concerns about these. But at least this is progress. And I think people forget about that part of things so much. They're so hooked on, oh, well, this might not work or that. Doesn't matter. We're moving in a positive direction. Just let it happen.
Yeah. I mean, you can have concerns about the accuracy of the test. We were on this very podcast and I was sitting there railing about an article talking about how inaccurate a lot of tests are. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to get them done. You know, they're having concerns about something and trying to achieve a goal. People, to your point, they just want to point out everything that's wrong with something without coming up with a viable solution.
And inaccuracies lead to accuracies. So
that's too.
You learn from the inaccuracies to say, okay, this test isn't working. What can we do to fix it? Boom.
I feel like we're trading barbs. You know what? My science teacher told me 95% of science is failure. And I always remembered that because it's like trial and error. I mean, there's sophisticated versions of it, but at the end of the day, Uncle Tony, who we'll get to, tells us this all the time. Half of this is the reason stuff takes so long is because a lot of it doesn't work. And we need to make sure we don't give something that doesn't work and make things worse to people and tell them that it does work. So kudos to these governors. You know what? People can have their opinion about testing or not. I'll just stake my opinion because, you know, I like to throw the flag into the sand and get angry emails. I'm glad they're doing this. Take a step forward. Let's do this. Now, Sham, speaking of taking a step forward and a few, and maybe a few steps in a circle, what about our next gentleman and our next story? Can you let this one out, please? Now we're going to get to some fun news, which, yeah, I can't.
Okay, so a Lithuanian man, he disappeared in Britain about 5 years ago. And folks thought he was murdered. Like I guess he was 35 then, and he didn't show up from work on Monday. And so a murder investigation happened, and then the police was like, yeah, it was a complete mystery, but this gentleman was found in a wooded area 5 years after he was claimed to be murdered.
So it's weird because any story in a foreign entity, especially like UK and what have you, because like you said, the man was British. They have these strange terms, or not strange to us, legal terms. So they said that the man felt that he would be the victim of exploitation. So, because you're trying to figure out, like, why would a person disappear off the face of the earth for 5 years and just not and have a murder mystery surrounding him, and then come back? What caused that? They were like, he was a victim of exploitation. Now, I'm taking that to mean something probably equivalent to legal here, like extortion or, assault or intimidation or something like that. But the point is, when you see it, you're like, really? My man, you left. Somebody else got accused of your murder. Now, thankfully, in the article, it says that person did get cleared of the charges. But the point is, there was a murder investigation. So they could have conceivably picked somebody up, convicted him of your murder, and that person be in jail.
Your man was living in the next town.
Yes. Sham, we had that story about the guy in China who hid out for 17 years. At least that guy was already convicted. He was on the run.
Right. No, this guy was in the next town, living a normal life, working a regular job. Yeah. Like, he wasn't even hiding.
Matter of fact, Sham, how did they find him? Can you let us know that, please?
They received a tip. Didn't they make a Facebook page? I read the article. It was very vague. I was under the impression they got the tip, but then they also started looking on Facebook, and he posted something on Facebook. That's how I read it. They said, we got a tip, and then we went on Facebook and saw a posting on Facebook. So they didn't say he posted it, but they heavily implied that it was something that he kicked off. To your point, because he thought he was living this double life in a town 1 mile over. So, but yeah, 5 years. 5 years. It's working. He was working at through an employment agency in the next town.
And they said that he didn't have any family. So obviously that's a big thing. Or he did, but people would pass away and stuff like that. Didn't really have any friends. He knew people at work. People reported him missing, but that was about it. So it was easy for him to disappear. So that was the long and short of that. But that's just crazy. How do you do that? I just don't understand that. I mean, my man in China is still the champ. 17 years in the woods, like talking to nobody.
Yeah, but he turned out to be kind of...
I mean, he was...
Yeah.
He's the champ of weird, horrible people.
Oh, yeah. He's the champ of staying off of the grid.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. But now, let's get to some people who need to be off the grid.
Yes.
What's our favorite state? Can you lay this out, please?
Florida.
Can you lay this one all the way out?
All right. So a guy in, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Pinellas County, Florida, walked up to a kid who was wearing a mask. He was sitting at Ricky T's in Treasure Island, sitting at a table wearing a mask, and he told this kid to take the mask off.
So that's number one.
That's number one. Then he asked the kid if he could shake his hand. The boy refused. Then the guy grabbed the boy's arm, got close to his face, and spit on him. Then he told the child, "You now have coronavirus."
So, Shan, what should happen to this man?
He should have been beat to a bloody pulp. Like, what do you mean?
Legally, what should happen?
He should be in jail, which I believe he is right now.
He is in jail. And he should be in jail for quite a long time. You know, spitting, again, we've talked about it multiple times. It's just as bad, if not worse, to me, than like punching somebody and doing all that. And you do this to a child? Premeditated? Like you set up a whole little sort of production to do this? Yeah, you should be in jail for quite some time, man. Years behind this. And that child would have been within his rights, especially that's a child too. They can get off basing on anything because they're a child, especially in Florida.
Where were the damn parents? We have heard, I've read this story several times. I've heard nothing about the parents. Thank God there was a worker at the restaurant that was able to like kind of grab him up and pin him down until the police officers came. Cause I'm just like, where would it, like, I'm telling you, I don't have kids, but if that was my kid, they probably would have been taking me to jail with him.
Yeah. And when you look at the mugshot of the spitter, he looks very self-satisfied.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
He has all his teeth. I'm trying to figure out how.
He doesn't have a care in the world. He's proud of it.
Yeah. And they said that he was like walking around with no shoes and just was intoxicated and stuff. So I don't know what his story is. I bet they're going to claim that he was mentally unstable. Of course. And, you know, he won't have to serve as much time as he probably deserves. But that's just crazy.
Well, any prosecutor worth their salt. Like I said, get Jack McCoy in there from Law and Order. He'll take care of that. There are people who have mental issues, and maybe he does, but this was very premeditated. So, issue or not, let's get him locked up and throw away the key.
He told the cops he doesn't even know if he had the virus and he's never been tested. So you just out here thinking it's okay to spit on people and be like, now you have it. You're taunting a child.
Matter of fact, I forgot about the whole virus part until you just said it. I'm still focused on the spitting and just everything else. I want him locked up just for that. But yeah, okay. And then add that in. Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He's sane enough and mentally stable enough to do something crazy like that in terms of crazy evil. Yeah. Crazy evil consequences. Anyway.
And let's sidebar into the spitting for a second. And I know we've talked about spitting quite a few times on this show. Have. I posted about it on our page recently. Mm-hmm. Like, how is it that so many people lately feel so comfortable spitting on people? And not only that, how is it that people are allowing it? I think that bothers me more than the actual spitting. That you would stand there, and I posted a video on our page of it was a young lady who was going around acting a fool, and the woman just stood there and took it while she spat on her. I'm just like, folks, do y'all know that is like one of the most ultimate forms of disrespect? It's worse than getting punched.
I mean, you and I talked about it. The first time we talked about spitting, we talked about Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, we know how that happened.
Exactly.
And we know how that turned out.
And, you know, we went on a rant, and I still stand behind everything I said. It's horrible. And to your point, you brought up the video you posted. There was another incident in which someone got spat on in the store, and then the worker was like, oh, I forgive them. You know what? Every time I think about someone spitting on someone else, it boils my blood, because I think about if that were to happen to me, I would just completely lose my mind.
Oh, I'm blacking out.
There's no other instance in which I could think of. I mean, okay, there are a few, but the point being, something directly happening to me where I know for a fact I would just completely lose my mind. And people were like, especially in the pandemic, you're going to spit on someone because they're wearing a mask and you're not, and you're trying to prove something or whatever. Like, that's what a lot of these instances are. Or you're mad because you're being asked to leave a store, or you're doing this or you're doing that. Like, I mean, these people, I don't even want to say on this very podcast that you and I treat like our baby and we can say whatever. I still don't want to say what I want to happen to those people. That's how I feel about people who spit on other people intentionally, especially to make a purpose. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm going to calm down. I have a microphone now. Let's go to the next story.
Let's move on to something that could help people who are spat on.
Yeah.
But won't be able to help them to at least 2021. And we're talking about Clorox, folks. So I don't know if we talked about it, but I had read earlier in the year that Clorox and Lysol, these disinfectant companies, were kind of backlogged because of the mass hysteria and so much of the sales that they were getting once COVID hit. And so their typical production had to increase dramatically, and they just could not keep up with the demand. So initially they said, oh, well, we'll probably be able to catch up by July. Now Clorox is saying, yeah, scratch that. Y'all might not get wipes until 2021.
Yeah, we were saying that back when we thought this might be over anytime soon. Is basically what they were saying. Yeah. Now, I listen, that's an indictment on a few levels. Number one, they miscalculated how horrible and selfish the American public was. And number two, doubling down on that point, not just in the sense of containing the virus as a whole, but also hoarding products. Mm-hmm. People are still hoarding stuff. It's just not being talked about anymore. Toilet paper, Kleenex, napkins, all this stuff, hand sanitizer, all of this stuff. They're still hoarding it. And it's crazy that a company will be like, yo, we made projections. 4 months ago, we made a projection for 6 months, but we didn't anticipate the incompetence of the public. So give that another 6 months.
Yo, it's interesting that you brought up the hoarding part, because somebody we both know, we're mutual friends with on the Nosy Book, posted that he knew somebody that was selling the stuff. He posted a picture. This dude had a box of Lysol spray, Microban 24, disinfectant, anything that you can think of. Just had a big cardboard box of it and was about to sell them out of his car or something like that. And he was like, anybody need this stuff? You can meet him at blah, blah, blah. It's yo, that's what we doing? I should not have to meet you for that. I should be able to just go to the store and get one off the shelf. Now, granted, I have about 7 containers of disinfectant wipes in my house.
I mean, that's fine.
But Lord knows
it wasn't because of this.
Well, Lord knows I'm going to use it. But I've said this before. I've always had at least one canister of wipes in my car.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I use them at ATMs and gas stations. And so once this happened and I couldn't do my usual thing, I just kind of freaked out. I was like, but I always have one. So every time I went to the store and I would see one, I would just buy it. So now I've got 7 of them.
Yeah. The worst feeling in the whole world is to go up to an ATM and be able to see prints and just grind.
It's gross.
Especially in the middle of the city. It's disgusting. Yeah. And anything you put in your hands on. But to your point, that's how you would live regardless in terms of making sure stuff's clean. So, but people just hoarding, there are people who hoard it for business reasons, trying to sell it and resell it and stuff like that. So that is what it is.
I'm using my stuff. I ain't selling it to nobody. I need it.
Good. So I got to worry about seeing you on the news talking about, you were going to keep it for a good purpose and then you decide to make money.
Nope. I need my stuff. Nope.
Now, rounding out some of the news, some of the states that we're talking about, Sham, we have a national figure in one of our southern states.
Yeah, so Katrina Robinson.
Yeah.
She's a Tennessee state senator, embezzled $600,000 in federal money. Ask me what she was using the funds for.
Sham, what was she using funds for?
Her wedding her honeymoon, and then her divorce.
We'll budget this out. I just want all my family to come to a fancy event. And then I will travel. I mean, she did the Facebook trifecta.
Yeah, man. So look, she's 39 years old. She's a young senator. She's a black woman. Sorry. So she faces counts of theft and embezzlement, wire fraud, and also according to her criminal complaint, she used the money for a campaign event, which, hey, waste it now because you're not going to be reelected.
Right. Out of all the things that might have been the most legitimate usage. First of all, black woman. Yeah. The second you said Katrina, when I meet a white Katrina, I'm going to call you, tell you to stop what you're doing, and we're taping immediately. Just for that.
So that's funny. I know a white Katrina. But
Are you serious?
The Robinson was the part that sold it for me. That
you know a white Katrina?
Yeah.
Man, I want to meet her. I don't know why, but I would just go ahead and say it like that.
But yeah, so it was funny because like the money was intended to fund a nurse training program at a vocational school that she was running, but she ended up siphoning it to add to her salary and to pay for the things that we mentioned before, the marriage, the honeymoon, and divorce. Wow.
I mean, hopefully, I would love to see how that was divided. By the way, did she have a plan the whole time? Like, hold on, we're gonna do this in thirds because I need to save some of this. I will need these fees.
Yeah,
for my lawyer.
Man.
Wow. All right, Katrina
bites the dust.
Yeah, Katrina, calm down.
Yeah, she calming, all right.
Yeah. She gonna be calming in 6x8. But all right, now sticking this in the southern states, and look, this one, when you send it to me, it's one of those things. You'll send me a story, and I'm like, "What is Sham talking about, and where's she going with this?"
Well, I always send you the outlandish ones.
Exactly, and I open all of them, and it makes sense usually immediately. This one, I had to start reading a little bit into it to make sense. Basically, because, I mean, the headline was Virginia Mayor Aunt Jemima. And the meat of this is that Virginia Mayor Barry Presgraves from Luray, which Luray, Virginia it's far enough from DC where it's a drive, but it has a lot of caves and stuff, Luray Caverns.
Yeah, did you ever go on a field trip to the Luray Caverns?
I did. I went to Luray and Skyline. Yeah. And they have great caves and stalactites and stalagmites and all that stuff. But he's the mayor and look, lifelong resident. So he's not worried about his constituency. He grew up there. He ran for mayor. He's been mayor for years, whatever. When Joe Biden announced that he was going to have a woman, which was a while ago, and when all the tea leaves posted to the fact that it will be a black woman, my man said Joe Biden just announced Aunt Jemima as his VP pick, thinking he was being funny. That was a direct quote.
I don't even know how you think that's funny.
No, I'm saying
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're anybody, even a comedian, like, first of all, a comedian wouldn't say that because that's not funny. But I don't know how anybody forms their lips to say that and thinks that's funny.
Yeah, and to your point, forming your lips to say it was bad enough, and you and I are old enough to grow up in the age where people said stupid things on TV or on camera. I mean, my man, to take the time to type something and post it, people treat posting like it's arbitrary, and it is. But the point is, that's why it's all the more ridiculous when you post something stupid, because it takes infinitely more effort to type something and spell it correctly, which he did.
Yeah. And
do all that than it does to say something stupid. I mean, saying something stupid is saying something stupid. You don't have to, it's not on record. I mean, it could be recorded, but that's fine. writing something and correcting it, your grammar, your punctuation, everything's accurate, and it's the dumbest thing ever, like this. I mean, Sham, I'm looking at it.
It's a perfect sentence.
He could teach your English class.
He could. I'm actually glad about that. I'm tired of reading ungrammatical things on Facebook. It hurts my brain. But the other thing too that bothers me about stuff like this is people do it and then they like delete it like that's gonna make a difference.
I mean, don't people understand? People screenshot stuff. I screenshot memes that I like immediately. Especially if it's controversial, like, yo, they probably need to take this down. I'm going to screenshot this right now because I love memes. Yeah. And to your point, why are you taking stuff that you put it, whatever drove you to put it up in the first place? Like, where's that energy?
Yeah. He called every black woman in America Aunt Jemima. Because guess what? Joe Biden has not selected anyone yet. So you're basically saying that whoever he was selecting just because she was black was Aunt Jemima. That's
exactly.
Crazy.
I mean, Kamala Harris is a senator. Stacey Abrams was a state senator who barely and basically got cheated out of a gubernatorial election. I forget the other lady's name.
Representative Karen Bass and former National Security Advisor Susan Rice. Who is running to the front of the pack for me. But Yeah. Obama loved her. Yeah, she was great. So I mean, just racism, casual racism. Just pick the first black woman image in your head and let's throw it on that. Now, from a casual racist to an active racist who sometimes does passive aggressive things. One Mr. 45, our president of the United States. So Sham, I decided, we had a few stories here. If you can indulge, we could just squeeze them together and make it, just a 45 mini round robin. A 45 mini mix.
Exactly. So let's start with this lawsuit, which actually you're on the forefront of that because I was so focused on some of the other stuff. This one went under my radar.
How?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, the short of it is that Nevada had decided that they're just going to do a full mail-in voting across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So Yo Perez 45 decided, or his campaign, quote unquote, decided that they're going to sue the state of Nevada to try to stop them from voting by mail. Because they basically want to do the election entirely via mail. So the Trump campaign thinks that this is going to kind of skew votes towards Biden, or it's going to get messed up because they're being mailed, blah, 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 blah. But what's hilarious about this is that a higher percentage of Republicans typically vote by mail.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing that I always try to say that I always get wrong.
I mean, are you willing to give it a try?
Cutting off your nose to spite your face.
There it is. Look at you. All right.
So basically, that's what he's doing here.
Yes. Yes, he is. I'm very proud of you, by the way.
Thank you.
A lot of old people in Florida move from New York. They vote. They mail in their ballots. People overseas, people in the military, mail in their ballot. Now, granted, you have absentee and you have mail in, and there's a difference. But the point being, there are people everywhere who mail in their ballots.
Right.
45 himself mails in his ballot. You want to talk about cutting off your nose?
Yeah, because isn't he registered in Florida?
Yes. I mean, stop it. It's ridiculous on his face. He's trying to conjure up any reason. He wants to plant the seed now so that when he loses the election,
he gonna blame it on the mail-in votes.
Exactly.
Which would be crazy because what if he won Nevada?
He's making it sound like the biggest catastrophe or biggest potential catastrophe in the world. And yeah, you're right. He could easily win Nevada. Nevada is a purple state, and it could flip at any time. So.
But how about while we on the Trump campaign, and I know we didn't I'm just going to throw this in, but how about the Trump campaign helping Kanye get his
You didn't throw it in because I don't know about you. I saw that update this morning. Kanye West, not only he's on the ballot in a couple states, but to your point, 45's campaign is actively promoting him because they know that some people who go to the polls take the time out to go to the polls or mail in an absentee ballot, fine, and put Kanye in there and siphon off votes from Biden and therefore strengthen 45 because none of 45's people are doing that. They see Kanye for what he is, a distraction, and they will stick to the program.
Yeah. Okay. But you know, he's said that he has nothing to do with Kanye getting on the ballot. This was the quote, though. Kim Kardashian, she's got a good heart, a very good heart, and I like Kanye very much. But I have nothing to do with him getting on the ballot.
And there's the quote. Yeah. I mean, if I'm him, I don't say much more either. Actually, that was a pretty good quote because you're on the record of saying something, but you didn't really say anything. So this can't be tied back to you.
Exactly. But your lawyer is seen rushing into a building trying to get the papers done so Kanye can be added to the ballot. Okay, but you had nothing to do with it. Got it.
Kanye, ridiculous. Now, some additional 45 news. So he is flailing all over the place, trying to figure out how he can steer the narrative back to a place in which he wins this election. Polls are still falling. Everything's still going crazy. Now, we talked a lot about that rally in Tulsa, and we named our episode after it, TikTok Troll, which was accurate. 45 took that very personally. He was very upset about how embarrassed he was. He brings up the crowd size all the time and that it was misrepresented. TikTok, meanwhile, is owned by ByteDance, which is a company in China. They were set to make a deal with Microsoft. Microsoft was going to purchase ByteDance and the properties, including TikTok.
I thought Facebook was about to buy them.
No, it was Microsoft. I didn't know about Facebook. Facebook, I think, is Actually, Facebook, I'm glad you said that. Facebook is working on its own app that's a competitor to TikTok. And now they're pushing it even more because of all this TikTok madness. Mm-hmm. Now, ByteDance was going to sell to Microsoft. It was in the works for quite some time. They had to go through some antitrust issues, but it was ready to go. And then 45, on the heels of everything that happened to Tulsa, and in general, was basically going to block it, try to use the powers of the presidency to block the sale.
They had already blocked folks in the military from using TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the easier sell, especially for him. He's a commander in chief. He can issue a unilateral order, and that's fine. But in terms of interfering in a business merger of this sort, this is big news. And the fact that he even thought he could do that was big news. Now, the people from ByteDance and TikTok, they try to go to the White House, work this out. They did have some meetings with him. And so he softened up over the course of the week. The sale is not final yet, but the tea leaves are pointing that way. But Facebook, back to what you were saying, jumped into the breach. I forget the name of the app, but they want to try to introduce something that rivals TikTok just in case TikTok falls based on this government intervention. So it's just a messy situation. And a lot of this, yes, there's antitrust issues and serious issues, but this all stems from the simple fact that 45 was embarrassed that a lot of teenagers and young people that we talked about in TikTok Troll use TikTok to troll him. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
I mean, he can be mad about that all he wants, but you think if teenagers went as far as to use TikTok, you don't think they're going to find something else and troll him even harder next time? All he's doing is giving them ammunition to do something worse.
That's exactly right. But to him, that's going to take longer than 4 months. And that's all he cares about.
Shoot, they could be on Instagram and wherever else right now working on the next, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. And really, I'm tripping. Did I say 4 months? Sham, it's August 8th. We're talking about 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elections in 90 days. Mm-hmm. Point blank, period. So.
Oh, I'm sure they got something else up their sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. So, transitioning to a gratuitous HBO mention, AXIOS. So, this was my favorite story of the week, Sham. I won't lie. And I was ready for it when it was teased because some other things have come out about it even before this week, but then the whole interview dropped. So, Jonathan Swan, one of the reporters for AXIOS, which is a very good show on HBO, was granted an exclusive interview with the president, with 45. In the White House, the interview lasted about 45 minutes. So he goes in there, and it's wide-ranging. And it's been universally called this week one of the best interviews of 45, period, especially since either he's become president or even come on the presidential stage as a candidate. Because Mr. Swan came with his facts, and he came ready, and he didn't let him wiggle out with all his crazy lies. And when he would lie, he would say, hey, what are you talking about, man? Like, I have the report right here. And a lot of times he gave him the report, and 45 would look confused, like, I don't know. What do you mean? You can't do that. When they were talking about the pandemic, Jonathan Swan was talking about how many people have died every day and the death rate. 45 tried to make the death rate into something else. And then Swan was like, look, I got the data right here. I'm counting deaths per cases in a country, or deaths per people in a country, actually per capita. And 45 was like, you can't do that. And he goes, why can't I do that? Like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Other reporters had not been doing. And Sham, what came out of this one? Now, it is being shortened. There was bigger context behind it, but he did say it. Swan brought up the death rate, and 45 said they were arguing back and forth. He said, it is what it is.
He said they are dying. That's true. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that the virus was under control as much as you could control it.
Yeah.
His comments about John Lewis, though.
Oh, yeah. That's not funny.
Not funny at all.
It's horrible.
So he basically asked them, about him. He was like, I don't know. He's like, he asked about the legacy of John Lewis, and he said, I don't know. Yeah. Then he went back and was like, well, he didn't come to my inauguration. Then he was like, but nobody has done more for Black Americans than I have. Right. And then he says, well, Lewis should have come. I think he made a big mistake by not showing up, basically still talking about his inauguration. Right. And then he finally was like, he was a person that devoted a lot of energy and a lot of heart to civil rights, but there were also many others.
Right. Let's start with the small thing first. Congressman Lewis was probably at wherever everyone else in the whole world was during the inauguration, because nobody came to that. But it was ridiculously insulting to John Lewis during that interview. And I'm glad, because that was towards the end. They had covered everything else I just talked about. And Swan made a point to ask him about it, probably because he had an inkling of where 45 would go. And he just needed to get him on the record. Everything we talked about John Lewis when he died, the last week and a half to 2 weeks has been about celebrating his legacy. Whether it was Capitol Hill, whether it was what will be renamed the John Lewis Bridge from the Pettus Bridge. They showed that. They showed the memorial. I mean, everything. This was hypothetically a layup for 45 if he had said the right things. And he just couldn't do it because he's a racist.
The part that was hilarious to me, which was when he said that they didn't have a vaccine or a cure testing. Or they didn't have testing. Correct. Yeah. They didn't have testing for the virus before he came into office. And then the gentleman Jonathan Swan goes, but the virus didn't exist yet.
So how can you have tested for it? and Sham, honestly, that was one of the best parts. His whole demeanor during the interview, he's very professional. He had his questions ready and all that. But he would cut him off in the middle of his lie, which not enough journalists do. I brought up the Chris Wallace interview a couple weeks ago. Chris Wallace did do this as well. You got to stop the lie before it gets off the ground. The way he said it was like, we've done more testing than anybody. Well, okay. And then he was like, no, you haven't. And he was like, well, we couldn't have because we didn't have, this was the test that, we tried to get because we weren't ready. He was like, yeah, how can you have the test? It wasn't even a disease. No. And he cut him off. And there were other times where he did that where he was like, you can't do that, Jonathan. You can't pull that. And he was like, I can't. Like he would say that. And he would look at him and the camera would have him looking at him like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, I'm not going to let you sit here and say stupid things in front of me. You're the president and that's fine. But I'm a professional and one of us has to take this seriously. And I guess that person's going to be me. So yeah, no, it was very good. It was very good. Look at it. It's only 45 minutes, so you can fast forward, rewind to the parts that interest you in terms of the subject. But that's all political news we have to take.
Excellent. Let's move on to entertainment.
Sham, this has been brewing for years. I want to say that as somebody who's on the peripheral of the entertainment world, I feel like over the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's exploded. But I've heard murmurs about this for years. So can you expand on this for us a little bit?
So our beloved Ellen DeGeneres is under fire because of workplace issues on her show. So I hadn't heard like you that this has been going on for years. Maybe I've been living under a rock, whatever. I look at Ellen and I'm like, oh, she's so great. She's funny. She dances with people. She gives money to people. She gives prizes. I mean, she's so fun, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah, but the folks who work for her did not believe so. So basically about 11 staffers on her show have reported that there is a toxic work environment behind the scenes of her show. They claim that her be kind attitude is all for show. One of them is saying that there was racist remarks by coworkers about her hairstyle, claiming that there were 2 Black ladies who worked there and they both had box braids. And somebody said to her, oh, I hope we don't get you too confused. Wow. And then another one had said they only remember the names of white staffers. So executive producers Ed Glavin, Mary Connolly, and Andy Lassner have taken full responsibility for the daily operations of the show. And they've basically said that without really saying it, that Ellen had no knowledge and had nothing to do with this.
Okay.
They feel like they had an open, safe, and inclusive work environment, but these things are coming out and they're like, look, we're the ones who were on the day-to-day. We're the ones that need to investigate this. We need to make sure we need to take this seriously and get down to the bottom of it. Now, Warner, who basically distributes the show, is doing their own investigation as well. So right now it's kind of up in the air as to whether or not the show will even come back. But Ellen has also made a statement that she is going to also make herself a part of the investigation. And she's basically like, look, you hire people so they can do the day-to-day. I mean, to wrap it all up, it was a long statement, but she's like, look, this is my show. I'm the face of the show. I'm the host. I go out and I do such and such and such. I hire people to put in place to run the day-to-day activities, but obviously they weren't doing what they needed to do. So now I need to get involved. But folks are like, no, your ass knew. And
right.
Actually, 2 people spoke out. Brad Garrett, who used to be on Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yep.
And Leah Thompson, who was a big 80s actress.
Yes.
Both were like, yeah, we've heard her say some crazy stuff. So
Now, the Brad Garrett one, I feel like, was he basing that off sort of a guest appearance on her show and what he saw? I saw bits and pieces of that story. And that's what I gathered from it, that he was talking about his observations or not even experiences from being on her show. And I'm guessing he's been on there multiple times, but just the environment he witnessed.
Well, he said he tweeted, "Sorry, but it comes from the top at the Ellen Show. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge."
It's crazy. That's crazy. Now, let me clarify what I heard about for years. Everything you said about sort of the treatment, especially of staffers and stuff, because there will always be stories like Ellen's really mean, like she does all this dance. Everything you said, like, was the story. Where it'd be like, oh, she dances all the time, she seems nice, but she's not. The racism I had never heard, so I want to exclude that part. I had not. This was the first time I heard of racism. Like when this story popped up, I was like, "Oh, wow, they had racism in there too." But everything else, though, I had heard about in terms of the mistreatment, whether it be of staffers, sometimes guests, whatever. The environment that there have been. I'm not gonna say loudly like talked about, but it definitely had been on the current. Yeah. So it's one of those things like, wow, okay, this is now coming out. So let's see if this will be treated as the non-story that it's been treated as up to this point, or if there's some juice to it.
I mean, it's getting a lot of juice to the point where I'm scrolling through our Instagram at Stop Playing Podcast, seeing all types of stories about celebrities coming out and trying to defend it. I mean, if it's no juice, why folks out here trying to defend you?
Well, Shan, if you're accused of something, don't you want your friends to defend you? I would defend you.
I mean, yeah, but
I mean, you probably would be like, why don't you shut up?
Yeah.
And let the truth come out.
I don't know what everybody's speaking for me.
Oh, but there's some people, you're doing more harm than good. Why don't you sit over in the corner?
And I feel like that's what the general consensus is with all of them at this point. Like, all right, y'all protesting way too much. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see if there's an Ellen Show anytime soon, if there's going to be a new season or not.
Yeah. They can use the pandemic as a convenient excuse to usher her out. But she's gotten them some good ratings. Man.
Yeah, and she could be like the other shows been doing. Just keep doing Zoom episodes.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Her whole little bag.
Exactly. If they feel like it's a non-issue and they want to continue with the show, they'll do so, and they'll probably do it via virtually like everybody else. So moving on to someone who has been in two of the highest grossing films ever.
Yes, she has a very good resume. And I'm also personally a huge fan of this young lady, which you probably ascertain.
Yeah, I like her a lot. I remember from her very first movie, Center Stage, I was like, I like this girl. So we're talking about Zoe Saldana, who has been in Avatar and in Avengers Endgame, with Avengers Endgame being the highest grossing movie of all time. She is the second highest grossing actress as far as dollars, film dollars in history at this point. So she came with a lot of controversy about 4 years ago, playing Nina Simone in a biopic. And a lot of people were struggling with them choosing her as Nina Simone.
Yep.
And with having to darken her skin to play the role. Everybody's like, why you just ain't find somebody that was darker? My only issue was that why didn't you find a singer?
I mean, an excellent point.
Like, just
if you're going to make a movie about a singer,
find an actress who's actually a singer.
Yeah.
You know? So during that time when she was getting backlash for playing the role, she came with the heat. She wanted all the smoke.
That's what makes this story so great. Yeah.
So now she's apologizing for taking on the role and saying that it should have gone to a Black woman, which kind of took me back because she's always identified as Black. So you've always said that you're Black, which she is. Yeah. She's Afro-Latina, but she's Black. And now you're saying it should have gone to a Black person. So are you Black or are you not? What's happening here?
Sham, this story is so interesting to me for 100 different reasons. This woman came for I remember when this happened and she was cast for that role and people were criticizing her at the time for taking it. And it was known going into it that she would actively, and the film would actively darken her so that she can appear to look more like Nina Simone. And people were criticizing her for that. And she had all the smoke. And she said, because she's half, I want to get it right, half, I want to say Dominican. And
she's Dominican.
Oh, she is like 3 or 4 things.
Yeah, she's Dominican, Puerto Rican, and some other things.
Correct. But she cited that and said, look, I'm a Black woman. So basically what she was saying is, I can darken my skin to play. It's not appropriation because I'm Black. So if I'm lighter than the character, it's not appropriation for me to darken my skin to play the character because I'm still Black. And I'm saying it a lot nicer than she was saying it at the time. Because like you said, she was not trying to hear it. Mm-mm. Then in her apology, this is what makes it even more interesting. In her apology, I read that thing verbatim. I read it like twice because I was like, did I really? She said she was crying, first of all. So it was a video. I didn't see the video. I read it.
Yeah, it was an Instagram
transcript.
Live.
Yeah, I checked the transcript again. And probably should have saw it. Probably given me more perspective. But she says, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And at the time, she acknowledged, she was like, I was really defiant about it. And then she said, because I'm Black. So even still, like even now, even in the apology, she still feels the need to justify why she felt the way she felt.
But then she goes and says, I should have done everything in my power to cast a Black woman to play an exceptionally perfect Black woman.
Yeah, it's like, man, what are you talking about?
I'm so worried. Was she drunk? I didn't see the video either. Like, what is this? Like, she's Puerto Rican, Dominican, Haitian, and a little bit of Lebanese.
Right.
I just didn't understand the apology. That's what I have a problem. We've talked about this before. I have a problem with people who come with smoke and they believe what they said at the time and they come back with these apologies. What are you apologizing for?
Correct. You meant it.
You had all the smoke in the world for this. Like you said, she was defiant as I don't know what. Like, I'm a Black woman, I can play her. Okay.
Stick with that.
Because you are a Black woman.
or don't continue to add that into your apology. Either go back and say, you know what, I'm a Black woman, but at the same time, like, blackening my skin and what have you. Or even pivot to, I should have chosen. There were a million different reasons why I shouldn't have taken this part. She's sitting there still like, I was defiant, but here's my reason, but I was still defiant.
Right.
And I'm going to cry about it to make myself look sincere, which I'm sure she was sincere. And I like Zoe Saldana. Don't get me wrong, but I'm with you. Stop this. I'd rather you not have said anything at all than bring it up to just say this.
Right.
Yeah, you could have let that sleeping dog lay in the corner.
And for what I understand, she did an excellent job.
Yeah,
she is a good actress.
She's a great actress.
So just like
she's a good actress.
Whatever she was, stay away from the Cuervo.
Yeah, you causing more problems. You causing more problems by apologizing. Yeah. Nah, but she so this is another manifestation. We talk about the Black Lives Matter care package. This is the Black Lives Matter aftermath. We still get a lot of unsolicited apologies and unsolicited explanations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sticking with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of her co-stars.
Now this one, I'm an airmail this right now. I'm with him. Spoiler alert.
You're with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, Anthony Mackie's issue is that Marvel needs more diversity.
Yes,
and that's it.
And look, the fact that he's been out here, he's not only saying it like right now, he's like, I've been saying it. Here's what I respect about Anthony Mackie. Anthony Mackie is the black man who walks up to the job. Y'all are not diverse enough. Okay, we're going to hire you. Okay, that's great. Y'all still not diverse enough. Okay, you ready to do your job? Yeah, I'm going to do my job, but y'all not diverse enough. And I'm still going to tell everyone in the whole world that y'all are not diverse enough. The attitude I'm getting from Anthony Mackie right now, he's not being negative. He's not being like ridiculous. He's just stating facts. What I like is that he is not settling for the fact that they've made him Captain America. He's like, that's not good enough. And then he brought up Black Panther and was like, and what makes it worse is that you have a movie like Black Panther that does well, that clearly shows the depth of Black direction by Ryan Coogler and everyone else in the Black production team. And you pool all of those into one Black movie so that everyone knows that you have Black people on staff that are accessible for all these other movies, and then you don't use them. I love that he said that.
That's an interesting take.
It's a spectacular take.
Yeah.
It's a spectacular, because basically we talked about like sports and like the Negro League and all that. All these great players in the Negro League. Yeah, you know what? If you invited them into the Major League, they wouldn't have to be a Negro League, and it would have made the Major League that much better.
It was almost like Marvel was like, all right, Black people, we're going to do you a solid.
Yeah.
We got this Black Panther character. We're going to make this Black Panther movie, and we're going to hire all Black people to be a part of the movie, but y'all can't work on none of the other ones.
Correct. And not only we're going to bring in Black people, but to your point, when you say hire, we also got all these Black people in reserve that we could be using in these other movies, and we're not. So there you go. Yeah. And I thought it was an excellent point. And he will not shut up. He's been doing this fearlessly. Because, I mean, they could drop Anthony Mackie. Let's keep it 100. Anthony Mackie's a great actor. I've seen bigger actors than him get dropped for lesser stuff than what he's doing. But he doesn't care. And I like that. Yeah.
And this all stemmed from a conversation that he had with Daveed Diggs, which is part of Variety's purview or whatever. So yeah, good for Anthony Mackie. And while we're talking about Disney Plus or Disney MCU, which is a vision of Disney, Disney Plus, who we've talked about Disney Plus quite a bit on this show, its release and how we feel about it. I still think that their interface could use some work.
I agree with you, by the way, as I've dug deeper into that. Excellent take.
Thank you. So you brought this to my attention, and I did not know I knew about the movie happening. I've seen the trailers and stuff. The live action film version of Mulan, which is one of my all-time favorite Disney princesses.
Yeah.
So you're saying that instead of releasing it in the theater, they're going to release it on Disney Plus?
Correct. So this really brings together a lot of things that we have been talking about on the entertainment segment of the show since the pandemic. Okay. So, and even going back to last year. So you got Disney Plus in general. You especially talked about, even in the last episode, the effect of streaming and the revenue behind that and the business decisions. So we got that. Talking about live action, let's take it back to last year. When we talked about Aladdin and Will Smith and how much money that made in the theater, because you have a whole generation of people our age. We remember Aladdin and Mulan and everybody else as cartoons. Now we have kids. They remember us talking about them, and they may dust off the cassette tape in the house and then want to go see the live action. To your point, Mulan is an excellent film. Disney was betting on making the kind of money that from Mulan that they made off of Aladdin, and even the quote unquote live action Lion King. But then the pandemic hit, so this had been in the can since last year, and they were struggling as to what they were going to do with this. So then they decided, you know what? We have our own platform. Streaming is out here. We've made our own channel. We got Star Wars. We got everything else. We're going to put it out. Here's the caveat. They put it out on this platform. You still have to pay $30 to watch it if you want to watch it. So it's like pay-per-view for cable. They're making a huge bet on this. They're betting on the fact that, you know, people are anticipating this movie. They've had to pay all the actors. They've had this huge outlay of costs. They have to try to get this money back. They can't get it back from the people who've already paid for the subscription. They can, but they need to get some extra out of it. So this is what they're doing. This is, I think, a preview of what a lot of studios are going to do if they don't see a light at the end of this coronavirus tunnel, where they don't feel confident in putting something out in an actual physical theater that they know people can go to. They're going to, you know, fall back on their platform and then even try some exotic stuff like Disney is trying with this.
Now,
so with all that being said, you like Mulan? Are you going to pay?
Now, look, when you first told me about this, I was outraged. I was like, $30 ain't no way in hell. I'm already paying you $6.99 a month to watch whatever the hell I want to watch. But now you only pay $30 for a live action version of an animated film that was absolutely excellent. Like the problem with these live action movies that they're doing, they are like way below what the actual animated one was. Like they're just not as good. They're almost terrible, to be honest. I mean, I heard Aladdin was pretty much the best one yet, but I'm still not watching that. I'm watching, if I want to see Aladdin, I want to see the cartoon. Now, I'm a little less outraged than I was when you told me about it before the episode, because as I'm listening to you talk about this, you said the key words, pay-per-view. And this brought me back to a time when people would pay for like the heavyweight fights.
That's right.
And you would invite them over to your house, and people would pay you, like y'all would pool your money together and people would pay you, and y'all would sit in the basement. You have all this food and stuff, and you will watch the fight party. Fight party.
Yeah, party.
Bro, now you can have Mulan parties.
Yeah, party.
You have a Mulan party.
You totally have a party.
Like I've totally gone 180 on this. Like this is actually excellent. You know, I can invite like 5 or 6 people over. Social distancing, of course. We could have some snacks and we could have a Mulan party, and I can charge everybody $5. I win.
Sham, can you imagine telling the younger generation how there was a time when, I mean, I don't know, you pay for WWF or WWE or wrestling in general?
Wrestling. Dude.
Yeah. SummerSlam.
All of that.
Survivor Series, all that.
Straight WWF parties.
WrestleMania.
In the basement.
Yeah.
Red Cup WWF parties. Yes, WWF, folks. It was called that. It was not WWE when we were
World Wrestling Federation first. Yeah. But no, and also, this is what they're doing, and they're counting on that. And it's, you know, they are saying, look, this movie can either sit in the can until 2021 or beyond. We don't know what this virus is going to do. We don't know what is going to happen. Or we can try to make this money. They have already outpaced their earnings. They expected to have 60 million subscribers before all of this happened when they first launched by 2022 or 2023. They've already reached that point. We talked about on the first day, they got 10 million subscribers on the first day. So what are we even talking about?
It broke the internet. Or broke the streaming service.
Yeah. So all the rules have changed. You know what? You got a live action film. The theaters ain't going to be open no time soon, champ. You might as well go ahead and buckle up and figure out another strategy. Will it work? We'll see. Hopefully, they are hoping people are thinking like you.
Well, that being said, I'm thinking like that, but I ain't doing it. I ain't paying $30. I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait until it's back to available like the other ones. That's it. I'm not doing all that. But moving on to some wrap-ups that we have. Or maybe not even wrap-ups, but follow-ups.
Hopefully they're wrap-ups. I don't want to think about them anymore after that, or at least one of them. Yeah. The first one, I'll start it off. I brought it up, marriage boot camp. So Corrupt is on this show. When I brought it up, I was heartbroken, and then I brought it up so that you can finish the story. Every update you've given me has broken my heart even more and more and more. Share it with the family, please. This is exactly what I was concerned about.
So look. Marriage Boot Camp reality stars or hip hop stars is on We, and we've talked about how much in dismay Shaka was that Corrupt hip hop legend was on the show. But what I've realized about this show is that it's kind of like, remember when Dr. Drew used to have like the couples therapy show? On MTV and stuff like that. Dr. Drew Pinsky, when they used to have the couples come in, it was like a therapy show. It was like a reality show. But because I've never really watched Marriage Boot Camp, I didn't realize how much of that it is. So although it's a spectacle, there's actually like couples there that need to work on their relationships, but they just kind of have, their relationships are so horrible that it turns into a spectacle. And one of the issues that Corrupt has is that he cannot control himself when he's drinking. He has a bit of an alcohol problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I broke the news to you, you were all types of upset. I said, let me find out Corrupt got a whole alcohol problem.
I mean, the fact that Corrupt has an alcohol problem is not surprising. The fact that you're able to give me that information based off his conduct on Marriage Boot Camp breaks my heart. Because that means it is unfolding on the show.
Oh, it is. He kept reaching for the bottle, and his girlfriend was like, everybody knows how he gets when he drinks. And everybody in the room looked uncomfortable that he was about to pour a drink. So I haven't watched every episode. I only saw the one that came on this week. And it seems there has been a pattern, that he has drunk too much and behaved inappropriately. Now, more so than Corrupt having a drinking problem, the most alarming part of that show to me was that Tahiri, who was a video vixen, probably known from Love and Hip Hop and being with Joe Budden for many years, her current boyfriend got so angry, he jumped up and tried to choke her. He literally had his hands around her neck, and security and producers had to come and grab her off. And I was just sitting there like, yo, this is crazy. Like,
it is.
But what more alarming than that was that the other men in the cast just sat there, and while it happened, none of them jumped to help her or to come to her defense. And I was just like, bro, like, so he got removed from the show. They said they're going to give him private counseling away from the house. But I was just like, this is crazy. Like, at this point, you're wondering too, like, obviously these people are on here for a couple of reasons. One, they actually do have problems.
Yeah.
And two, to get a check.
Yeah.
So in the midst of getting this check, I'm thinking to myself, I'm hoping that, which is bad in itself, that was a genuine kind of reaction. Because if so, that's a bad one. But I'm hoping it's a genuine one, because I would never want to think that somebody would purposely do something like that for a check.
You would hope, right? I mean, honestly, anytime you see something heinous on a reality, and that's heinous, on a reality TV show, you're like, where am I with this? Please tell me. It's the worst of two evils, though. You just said it. Is this real? Because if it's real, it's like, man, matter of fact, here's the thought. It's like, if it's real, get it off TV.
Yeah, why even air it?
Yeah, and if it's not real, then like, what kind of person are you? To even pretend? to be in this place. And that's look, I'm gonna just say it like this. I didn't say it when we first talked about it. I view Corrupt. Corrupt is one of my like personal favorite rappers, period. He's like one of my Gary Payton / basketball players. That's how I feel about Corrupt and rap. And for him to be at this place at this time, to draw a string back to Versus real quick. Snoop was playing a bunch of songs. He played Ain't No Fun, which of course, I mean, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. He skipped Corrupt's verse. One of the reasons he skipped Corrupt's verse, besides the fact that every other word is a complete cuss word, which yes, it's verses, but whatever. Corrupt and DMX had a beef. Mm-hmm. A serious one. Corrupt and Corrupt's fiance at the time, and I forget her name, but she was in music. Then went on to date DMX, so it may have been the other way around. But either way, they crossed paths in particular about one woman. And Corrupt made a diss record about DMX called Calling Out Names, which on a horrible album was one of the best songs. And yeah, I was wondering because when it was when Ain't No Fun was coming up, I was like, I wonder if he's going to play Corrupt's first because have they squashed that? But anyway, so that was a string back to Versus from last week. But in all seriousness, to your point, especially when you're talking about the guy attacking the lady like that, and the guy sitting around, guys, I don't care what entity you're on. You don't see this man choking this woman and get up and at least try to get between them. Nobody's telling you to try to wreck the dude, but protect the woman. You're not going to do that.
Right.
And for what? And I guarantee you, Sham, to finish that point, and I'm sorry for getting off on a rant, but to finish that point, if you would ask him like, hey, why didn't you step in right there? Oh, well, we had talked to the producers, there are a bunch of parameters on the show. We don't want to get in, get a lawsuit for touching somebody. So, they probably give you all kinds of dry excuses, is what I'm trying to say.
They was like, oh, we were in shock.
Really? Yeah. I guarantee you, do something ignorant to them and they act ignorant. Their ignorance gene is never off.
But to clarify, the woman that you were referring to in that Corrupt DMX beef was Natina Reed.
That's right.
She was in the group Black. And,
that's right.
They were.
I knew she was famous.
Yeah, she was in Black. She was like the left eye of that group. And she and Corrupt were engaged, and she gave birth to his son. And I remember when the story came out that she got hit by a car and she died.
Oh, I didn't know she was dead.
That happened in 2012. I remember that very vividly. And he was hurt by that.
Oh,
Corrupt went through some things behind that.
Oh, he loved her because I'm gonna tell you, at the time, Corrupt and Dogg Pound were no longer like preeminent like they had been. And DMX, meanwhile, I'm talking about not during her death in 2012, but in the mid-aughts, DMX was still very major. Corrupt was not so much. And I mean, Corrupt went at him with just no filter. And Calling Out Names was like, it was one of those things like, wow, you're going to DMX like that? But then it was like, well, you are Corrupt. I mean, you can do what you want, but like, yikes. And he was hurt about DMX's relationship with her and stuff that DMX had said about her. And to this, I can't remember somebody going to DMX like that.
I mean, it's Corrupt though.
Yeah, I mean, Corrupt's the man. Corrupt's the man. But I'm not pleased the reports you're giving me. Guys, spoiler, I'm not watching this show. Any report I get, it has to be from Sham, period. Not watching.
You ain't watching reality shows, period. So that's not really a big...
Well, except Cheaters.
Tell.
Except Cheaters. which, Sham, listen, you could throw in my face the whole time. I can't get on the judgment stool about anything you do. Cheaters is the worst reality show, like, in history.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's down there. It's down there. Yeah. But anyway, so anything else actually, I know you hate that I do this, but you'll like it in a moment. You were talking about Tia Mowry or Tamara, right? From the Real. It was Tamara. I saw a photo of her on Instagram, and she cut her hair a little bit, and it was a very good photo showing she's had some grays in her hair. Yeah, basically, Tia. She was showing like middle age. She's getting up there. I mean, it was a come to Jesus moment for me because we are the same age. But the point being,
she's 42.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we're in the same bracket. But she looked great.
Yeah, but her hair's been short for a minute though.
Okay. Well, yeah,
it's been short for a while. She just hasn't been touching it up, the color, because she ain't been going to. And also, I want to correct myself. I mean, rest in peace to Natina Reed, but actually DMX and Corrupt were beefing over Foxy Brown.
It went back to Foxy. That's right. I'm tripping too. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, Tamara Mowry, great picture.
Oh, that was Tia.
Was it Tia?
Yeah, it was Tia.
Oh, what's Tamara doing? Raising her kids and getting her...
and Tamara's still looking like she's 20.
Getting her residuals.
No gray hairs to be found.
I mean, they are twins though, so I mean, come on.
Yeah, but to me, they don't look alike. Not anymore.
They're twins. I mean, if they don't look alike, that's intervention on a human level. I mean, come on, they're twins. They come out the same egg, Sham. Right.
I know, but they don't look identical to me anymore. They grow up, I can tell them apart distinctly.
I mean, I agree with you. We're talking about the reasons behind that, right?
They just don't look that much alike anymore.
Yeah, you're right. All right.
But you wanted to kind of close out on Megan Thee Stallion.
I did. It's a wrap up. Here's the interesting thing about Megan Thee Stallion. I mean, her shooting is still technically an open case, even though Tory Lanez has been implicated. Sham, the one thing I found interesting about this, we talked about how people made light of the shooting, and she put out her statement. We got an apology that, independent of this, we thought we would never get in general from this person for anything ever. One Mr. 50 Cent actually apologized. He came on and straight up apologized on social media. It was like, look, at Megan, he added her and basically was like, a lot of stuff was coming out. I'm paraphrasing, but a lot of stuff was coming out about your shooting. I made jokes about it. I apologize. Like, I didn't realize at the time it was serious. I'm sorry. I mean, he said it. He said, I shouldn't have done that. And left it like that. Didn't make it as a joke. Didn't troll it. Didn't do anything. 50 Cent. I mean, we were talking, this stuff 50 Cent should have been apologizing for a long time ago before this. But I found this incredible that he actually just stood tall, was like, I was wrong. That's it. And I'm adding you. No troll behind that. No nothing else behind that. So I thought that was newsworthy. It would be like, Sham, could you imagine if 45 woke up and put a tweet like, I apologize for like my racism or whatever, like stuff like that? I mean, I would stop you from doing what you were doing and make us cast live. Just for that.
Which we probably should do at some point anyway.
Oh, we will, guys. Don't worry, that's coming. Actually, on some 50 Cent stuff, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just had to throw this in there. Did you see the date for the new Power release?
I didn't see the date. What's the date?
I believe it is September 18th. I'm probably have that wrong, but there's a date. And they're showing Malik at the table. So that's the one that's going first. It's Malik and Tasha and I guess Method Man and all those people. I don't see the rest of them in it, but I remember seeing the image and it was definitely Malik and definitely Tasha.
Tariq?
Tariq, and Tasha.
Well, but
so whatever book that is.
So that's good news.
Yeah, whatever book that is.
Power Book 2.
Okay, Power Book 2.
All right, ready to move on to some sports?
Always. Hey, I mean, I think it's appropriate you take this first one away.
Man, oh man, my coach has tested positive for the coronavirus. And apparently he is okay. Well, it's just so interesting, man, how some people get this and they're like on death's door, and some people get it and they're just like having a 2-week vacation at home.
Yeah.
So he contracted the virus, and apparently a couple other staffers the Philadelphia Eagles had contracted it. And from what I'm hearing, they were all asymptomatic.
Yeah.
And so, the NFL, I believe now, what are they doing? Once a week or?
I'm going to be transparent, Sharon. I'm still not confident. I've been wavering on confidence even on the show. I've been keeping track of the NFL. I don't know what they're doing.
Or it's either once a week, twice a week, something like that. Like every 5 days or something.
You mean testing?
Testing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, once a week at minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And in the meantime, Deuce Staley is running the day-to-day operations.
Which they finally took your recommendation. You were on this show saying that needed to happen.
Yeah. You've been with the team so long.
You were mad that he was promoting all kinds of people before him.
And one of the people he promoted, Press Taylor, was in close contact with him. And so he was he tested negative, but he was told to quarantine and leave the facility. He got promoted. He's a quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator. Like, how do you get promoted and your quarterback hasn't done anything but digress or regress or opposite of progressing?
You had it on regress. I should have jumped in. Like when I'm not supposed to jump.
A joke.
When I'm not. Hey, look, when I'm not supposed to jump in, I just jump in all over the place. I should just. But Deuce Staley, I hope that if we have a season, he coaches enough games where he gets coached, where he does a Bruce Arians situation, where he steps in there and he's like, look, I can just give me the reins real quick. But yeah, when I saw the Deuce Staley piece, I was like, man, Sham was the first one. I mean, you gave the first serious smoke to Doug Peterson that I had heard. And again, I've always said you've been appropriately grateful of the Super Bowl, but you gave him the smoke for the coaching staff decisions and just disregarding Deuce Staley. And the coronavirus came in and rectified all that.
Yeah, rectified it for like 14 days. Like, what are we saying? Like, once Doug Peterson is back to being, okay to join the team, Deuce Staley's just going to go back to being a running backs coach. Now, I think they did kind of give him a better title, like assistant.
He's an assistant coach?
Yeah, something like that.
Assistant head coach? Yeah.
He's, but still.
And we don't know
Make that man the offensive coordinator and stop playing.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah. Real talk.
But football is not going to be played, and I don't know why people keep thinking it is.
I mean, honestly, like every football story is what it was like. That would be interesting if we were to have a season. Like that's how I view every football story. Like, wow, man, if we were going to have a season, this would be really big news. But yikes, yeah. That being said, speaking of people just pulling out a season. Or pulling out a league where there was none before. The Rock, Dwayne stepping into the breach. And I feel like I had a lot more energy for the XFL than you did at the time.
Well, yeah, because the DC team was killing it.
Yeah, and then
COVID
literally
killed
like the second after I start talking about them on the show, first of all, they started losing. They lost like 2 straight. And then the outbreak hit, the pandemic hit like hard. And I was one of those people like, let's just go ahead and chill everything down right now and let these dudes get back to regroup. But at any rate, the XFL then ostensibly folded, but The Rock is stepping into the breach. You have any kind of like additional details on that?
So basically, he submitted a bid for the XFL, which I believe filed bankruptcy.
Right.
And awesome. He did it under the umbrella of Redbird Capital and with his business partner and ex-wife, Danny Garcia, which makes her the first female league owner of any kind.
That's awesome.
And they purchased the league for $15 million, which doesn't seem like a lot of money.
That's nothing. Yeah.
Right. But the creditors initially objected to the sale because of the low selling price. So they basically went in front of a bankruptcy court and was like, look, let's just make this happen. So it ended up happening. So yeah, The Rock now owns the XFL, which he bought from his former boss, Vince McMahon.
That's what I was about to say. Where's Vince McMahon in all this? I mean, I don't understand how he let this go for so low a price. I mean, there must be other things going on, because to our earlier point, when we were talking about pay-per-view and all that, yeah, the WWF, you know what else was getting money in their gates? Actual, like, engagements. They would go from town to town. So maybe the WWE at this point, or whatever it's called. Is it still WWE?
Yeah, it's WWE now. Yeah. Well, the thing about bankruptcy court, though, is that, like, before anything can happen with the actual XFL, there's a lot of people that got to get paid first. So I'm sure Vince McMahon probably had a lot of debts out there from, like, salaries, venues, all this stuff. And so giving it away at $15 million was probably like the easiest thing he could do at the time. So he could kind of recoup some of his own. So look, I know he did this twice and it didn't work out both times. But my thing is, and I posted this on our page, like, this thing is getting saved again. This is going to be the third reincarnation of the XFL. Like, they are really trying to make fetch happen.
That being said, this incarnation, I was with. I mean, I think they had the right ideas. They approached it the right way. The globe had to go through a pandemic for it to derail it, because I really think they were doing the right thing here in terms of the business model and the way they were approaching it. But to your point, if it don't work, it don't work. Sometimes there's just signs.
Yeah. And look, Redbird and The Rock, they have a plan in place on how they're going to save it. We just have to wait and see what happens. All right. Moving on to the MLB.
Yeah. Look, there are a couple of outbreaks, and we've been previewing this in the last couple episodes. We didn't want to see it happen, but it did happen. Ironically, the Yankees seem to be rolling along. They've gotten over a few of their outbreaks, but look, the Marlins and the Cardinals. Yeah, now the Cardinals are in Missouri, but they've had the series canceled while they've had multiple. I mean, on the Marlins, there are 20 at least. I saw as high as 22 players with COVID-19. So they had to cancel a series against us, the Nationals. And then the St. Louis Cardinals also had an outbreak, and I believe they're up to 10. So, look, MLB, they are trying to handle this. They're canceling series, they're canceling games, they're moving things around. But at the same time, this was only a 60-game season in the first place. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room. And as more of these teams and players on these teams get infected, you have to wonder, what is the path to having a completed season with a playoff? What are your thoughts? Oh, the Phillies were affected by this as well, from what I saw.
Trevor Kelly and Cole Irvin.
Yeah.
they caught it. Look, Major League Baseball has said, in the wake of all this, that y'all cannot be held to your own devices, like I always say. Mm-hmm. And now everybody, players and staff, have to wear masks at all times inside the stadium. Everybody's wearing them. They're restricting the places that they can go outside of the ballparks now. They're kind of trying to do a bubble like the NBA is doing, but not like, because they're not actually in a bubble.
Yeah, it's not a real bubble.
Yeah. Sent out a 6-page memo about this. And look, one of the pitchers from the Pirates was like, look, we basically been wearing masks all the time anyway. And look, it's a simple thing. Put it on. It's not that hard. And that's what we've been trying to tell people across America.
But America don't want to listen, which is why we are exactly where we are right now.
Right. So Major League Baseball has decided that this is what you're going to do. And if you don't want to comply, we'll have to deal with you separately. But this is where we are, man. They can only be removed when you eat or drink. Other than that, put them on. It ain't like they're constantly moving in baseball. A lot of times it's just standing around. It's not going to hurt you to have on a mask while you're standing out in the outfield. Because at this point, it's spreading so wildly that y'all need to be wearing them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No other way to say it. I'm still skeptical on how they're going to reconcile the amount of games lost and the comfort level of the players, even doing everything you talk about, with all these people already getting sick and missing games. I don't see the path. I don't see the path. Speaking of a path that I didn't see, there was a conference call in the Big Ten in college football. And the Big Ten has, like most of the college football divisions or conferences, has decided to mostly do all in-conference games. Now, a couple of things will come out of this. Edsel, the coach of UConn, has decided, and the AD there has decided that UConn will forego its entire season. So they're not going to play any football. The Big Ten in general, they had a call. Ryan
Were they
Day,
ever really playing football?
No, they were not. Their record was absurd.
It's UConn.
It was whatever that NASCAR driver's name who quit. It was like that was the best thing you ever did for yourself and the sport. Anyway, Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh were on a conference call with the Big Ten coaches. Jim Harbaugh accused Ryan Day of holding practices and stuff like that you're not supposed to do. And he interrupted him. Ryan Day promptly went back in the locker room and said, I'm paraphrasing, but basically like, we're going to hang 100 on this dude next time we play him. And that's a quote. That's a quote. But on the call, he said, worry about your team. I'll worry about mine. Jim Harbaugh should stop talking to people from Ohio State until he actually beats them. Like, stop. Because the fact that story got out, if that story got out today, tells you all you need to know. College football, the reason I even brought it up, y'all should not be playing, even dreaming about playing any games.
Didn't they say they starting Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, like starting what? Y'all shouldn't be doing anything. Anything. You gave us the story about Michigan a couple weeks ago and how they were going to control the crowd. Why would you even have a game at the big house if there can't be 100,000 people there? You're going to have, 10,000 people there? Maybe 20?
They're not going to have any.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. I kept forgetting. You weren't talking about social distancing. They're not having anybody except, I think they said students. So what, like a few thousand? Yeah, stop it. It's ridiculous. Look, whether it's MLB, whether it's college football, even professional football, Sham, as we talked about, why are these sports running around here acting like it's okay to go about business as usual when there's a pandemic? Like, why? Well, money, but like, why do they think we're going to think it's okay? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Now, on to NBA. Who, in general, what are your thoughts? Is the NBA handling this correctly? At least as well as you could?
I think they're handling it the best that you could handle it in this situation. And they have a sport in which it can be easily handled.
Yeah.
So I think their approach to it has worked out okay, except for a couple folks just rolling out of there, getting chicken wings at strip clubs. But yeah, I think the NBA has handled it as appropriately as it could be handled. The games are a little weird to watch without a crowd, but that's less of a distraction for them. They can just go ahead and shut up and dribble.
Yeah, as Laura Ingram, she got her wish. That's all they're doing. No, they're doing a good job. I think you're right. The sport lends itself to an easier containment, but I also think the NBA did a better job of planning.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball, I sympathize only in the sense that the pandemic hit essentially like right before your season started, but at the same time, you had all the time to prepare without having lost games on the books, and you didn't. NFL, your sin is even worse. Your season had basically just ended when the pandemic first started, and you had 6 months to prepare. And I still feel like the NFL is woefully unprepared. Like they have no idea what they're doing. Whereas the NBA, to bring the point home, this happened in the middle of, or excuse me, right before this regular season ended, and they were gearing up for the playoffs. So by all accounts, they were hurt probably the absolute worst. And then they got their stuff together and planned a solution that, while it may not have been perfect, at least showed that they gave thought to it. I don't feel like the other sports have done that. College football, like, y'all need to sit down. But in the NBA, one of your people, one of your guys, man, right?
Yeah.
You like this guy?
From what I affectionately call Duke South, the New Orleans Pelicans. So we don't normally talk about JJ Redick. He's a journeyman. Mm-hmm. He's a decent role player. He's not a star. I personally love him because he's from Duke. But what he's been a podcaster for a while. Like, mm-hmm. I have to say that JJ Redick is one of the first NBA players that I knew of that had a podcast. Mm-hmm. Not to say that he was the first, but first that I had heard of. So basically, after putting out 100 podcasts, he's decided that he is going to start a production company to develop more podcasts. Mm-hmm. So Shaka, should we submit our podcast to JJ?
That's already in the works. Listen, hey, JJ, by the time you listen to this, you will have already heard it. Hey, family, we don't just kiss up to people. We're networking. Let us breathe.
Exactly. And, he's about to have Stacey Abrams on.
I mean, maybe we can all do a segment and you can explain to Miss Abrams what her motivations are to your understanding. Be a disruptive guest.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. So she's going to be an upcoming guest on his show. And look, this is great because I love when people who have the means try to, afford people who don't have the means places to lend their voice. And I think this is awesome. And he's obviously preparing himself for life after basketball because he's 36. Yeah. And wow, JJ Redick is 36. And look, basketball is going to be over for him in a few short years. So look, he's taking his podcasting thing seriously and about to do this production company. I think it's a great idea.
I mean, we can both feel him on taking the podcast seriously. I read a story about how this started. He stumbled into this. He didn't seek this out. Mm-hmm. He was asked to write an article. It wasn't the Players Tribune because it wasn't out at that time, mm-hmm. but it was something equivalent to that. And he cited, which I can completely relate to. He was like, look, I'm horrible at writing papers in the sense that I wait till the night before and then I'd like churn it out. You know, he was like, that's what I did in college.
That was my college existence.
Yeah, I think it's like at least 75%.
I got up at 6 a.m. to write a paper that was due at 10.
Just turn out the paper. Yeah. But
Research
he was like, so writing an article, no, I'm not doing that. I was done with that. And then the guy was like, oh, well, would you like to at least talk about the subjects and, you know, do a podcast or whatever? And he was like, yeah, I could do that. And then it just took off steam from there. So I always like to hear stories like that, little anecdotal stories about how somebody got started, where it wasn't something that they were dreaming about as a kid or something. Because how can you dream about having a podcast as a kid our age? Yeah, and he's relatively our age.
You didn't dream about it because it wasn't out yet.
It didn't exist. Yeah, it's the AXIOS Trump argument.
Right, you didn't have the test because there was no virus.
So good for him. And listen, we'll talk. Hey, next time, by the time y'all hear this, we might be under the umbrella. Anyway.
So you've been watching the games?
Absolutely. I've been loving them. They've been great. They've been great. You know, it's a weird situation in the bubble, but the players, it's kind of like how I felt about Versus. The players have come with the appropriate, in my opinion, level of urgency where we have to play to get in. I mean, my Wizards are getting ushered out as not as we speak, but hopefully mercifully soon. We haven't won a game. We didn't deserve to be there. That's fine. Phoenix supposedly didn't deserve to be there, and they've beaten people. So there's that. How about you? You been watching?
I had only I saw the Lakers Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, not the whole thing. And then I also saw the Lakers playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I almost forgot that Russell Westbrook wasn't on the team because I was like, how the heck is Oklahoma City thumping the Lakers like this? But Chris Paul was out there balling.
I mean, they said Chris Paul has lost weight. He's on a vegan diet, Sham.
Yeah, I had heard that.
I mean, Chris Paul looks like a new person out there.
He tired of getting injured in the playoffs.
Yeah. You believe in Houston because of this?
No, I don't believe in anybody. Honestly, I haven't found, I need to really pay hard attention to the NBA because, regrettably I haven't, because I've been so used to not watching it that now that it's on, I always forget that it's on. So I'll have stronger opinions as it goes on.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. If people are approaching the pre-playoff bubble like this now, with this urgency, imagine how the teams are going to be, and I do, when the playoffs actually start. I think the players were ready to play, and that's what came across and has come across during this time. It's awesome. Awesome to see.
So, episode 75.
Yeah. We're either platinum or diamond. We're definitely not golden.
Well, platinum is 60.
Who does these scales? We'll research this after the show. I need to get with the board and the panel. But yeah, I'm good with it. Look at us coming up on 100.
Yeah, man. Coming up. Wow, that's 24 episodes. 25 episodes from now. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, we're gonna breeze through that. We'll be there before you know it.
Wow.
Yeah, 75. If you told me 75, I'd be like, what? One of us would have replaced the other. You and me. Anyway, take us out.
Yep. The Jonathan Ogden episode. But anyway.
Not bad. He went to my high school.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Stop Playing Podcast with Sham and Shaka. Tell your friends, subscribe, find a phone, grab it, put it in. You can find us on every podcast platform there is. Chat it up with us on Facebook and Instagram at The Stop Playing Podcast and on Twitter at Stop_playing pod. As always, keep your chips on the plate. No double dipping unless it's this podcast. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Stop playing.